Thank you.
And I will give you a cue when it's all going live on YouTube and everything. Give me
Sounds
just a
great.
second.
Thank you.
Okay, you are good to start.
Okay, so then I will ask again if we have a quorum for Camarillo and for Oxnard. We have one
Camarillo has a quorum. Oxnard does not.
Okay, who are we missing?
Just came in. Lopez just came in.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Lopez just logged on, and that will allow us to have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for everyone attending today. Appreciate it. So I will call this meeting to order, and we will start with our, just to let everyone know, we are having Zoom comments and wanted to make sure that everyone knows the procedure. If you are part of the public, if you could please make sure you're muted, that your Zoom is muted right now. And if you would like to speak at public comment or when we ask for public comments, if you could please raise the hand on the participants so that we can access you, and then we'll ask for you to provide your comments. And then also, what else do we have? If there's any items that were submitted for written, we will ask the airport staff to read that. And this is our first meeting with having our public attending Zoom for comments as well, I believe. So with that, thank you very much for everyone. And we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Thomas, would you like to lead us in that pledge?
Certainly. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. Roll call, please.
Okay, for Camarillo Airport Authority, Supervisor Long.
Yes.
Supervisor Ramirez.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Molche.
Present.
Councilmember Santangelo.
Here.
Bill Thomas.
Here.
Michael Hodgson.
Michael, you need to unmute.
Mute. Got it. There. Mike Hodson is present.
Thank you. Camarillo has a quorum.
Thank you. And Oxnard?
Supervisor Long.
Yes.
Supervisor Ramirez.
I'm here.
Councilmember Corralo. Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Walter Calhoun.
Walter,
He's here. He just needs to unmute, yeah.
Eugene Fussell.
Here.
And Mr. Calhoun, coming back to you.
He's still muted.
Okay. We see him there, so you do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Next up is the approval of the minutes for January 14th.
And Bill Thomas moved for approval of minutes for January for Camarillo.
For Camarillo, thank you. And a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. This is in first and second, and roll call, please.
Supervisor Long.
Yes.
Supervisor Ramirez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Molche.
Yes.
Councilmember Santangelo.
Okay, I wasn't here.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with one abstention.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to Oxnard. Walter, would you like to ask for a motion for the minutes?
Yes, sorry, the dog muted my deal, so we're all back in action again. Yes, I'd like to call for that motion.
I'll motion for approval. So you'll need to ask for a second.
I'll second it.
There we go. We have a first and a second. Then we ask for a roll call.
All those in favor?
Mr. Calhoun, I'll do a roll call vote.
I'm sorry.
Supervisor Long.
Okay.
Supervisor Long,
Yes.
Supervisor Ramirez,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez.
I will abstain since I wasn't here. Thank you.
Thank you. Walter Calhoun.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with one abstention.
Wonderful. Thank you. Moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments, staff?
We have received no written public comments.
Are there any comments on Zoom?
No comments at this time.
Perfect. Okay. Any unfinished business? It says none, so we'll move on to new business. Our authorization for the Director of Airports or designee to award an annual consulting service contract for 2020 and 2021. Pass that over to you, Kit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is pretty standard business for us. We do this about every 4 or 5 years. It's per FAA guidance. We have both engineering and planning services companies that work for us on a multitude of projects throughout the year, every year. And this is what this is. We do a RFQ, a request for qualifications, every 5 years. Again, per FAA guidance on this process, we've done that. And we have with us tonight Aaron Powers, our projects administrator, who has a couple of slides prepared to talk about the process of what we've done and how we've gotten to our selection. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Chairs, authority members, Aaron Powers, Projects Administrator. As Kit mentioned, the item before you is a pretty standard item. We every year we ask your authority to recommend the Board of Supervisors approve annual contracts which serve as sort of on-call services with a variety of consultants. In this case, your authority has already approved 3 on-call contracts that we came previously to your authority for approval. We're looking to add an additional consultant, Javiation, for the remainder of this fiscal year. So this would take us from January through June. Just a little background for why we're asking to add Javiation at this time. Every 5 years, as Kip had mentioned, we do a new consultant selection. The last consultant selection, that process that we went through was in 2016. So 2021 is 5 years later. And the 5-year consultant selection process also happens to have 5 basic steps. And I'll just sort of walk you through that. The first step is that the airport puts together a selection package, which includes selection criteria, identification of the projects that we expect to engage the consultant over the next 5 years. It also includes the makeup of the review committee. We send that off to the FAA for approval and buy-in. After that, once the FAA has approved it, we seek to broadly advertise the selection that we're looking to undergo. We advertise locally, and we also advertise in aviation-specific platforms like AAAE and SWAE, since we're looking for aviation-specific experienced firms to provide services. Once that advertisement is out there and the submittals are received by the airport, the submittals are reviewed by committee members, and the top scoring firms are invited for follow-up interviews. And from that interview process, the review committee makes a consultant selection and notifies the FAA. Next slide, please. So for the current 2021 consultant selection process, I'll just walk you through the 5 steps. We sought FAA approval. We advertised for 30 days. We received for the engineering and architectural submittals 6 from six separate firms. We identified 3 firms to move on to interviews. The interviews with those firms were all from consultants that were highly qualified. And once we were able to conduct interviews, ask follow-up questions, the review committee unanimously decided that Javiation would be the best consultant to help us with the projects and to support us over the next 5 years. Next slide, please. So Javiation, I just want to do a little introduction. We actually have them joining us tonight, and I'd like to talk about them a little bit. And then we have them here this evening so that if any authority members have any follow-up questions, they may be able to provide any answers to those questions. So Javiation is a firm that is headquartered out of Colorado, but they have several sites, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. But they are an aviation specialized architectural and engineering firm. They are a full service firm with a proven track record for similarly sized airports, particularly single runway airports, which is very important for us. And then coming back to locations, though they're headquartered in Colorado, they also have offices in Utah, Wyoming, Missouri, and California. And what's additionally exciting for us is that they actually plan to open up an office. They're going to co-locate with an existing business here in Ventura County and open up an office locally to support our efforts over the next 5 years. And additionally, they are not only a big supporter of the airport, but they also are big on community. And so they hope to grow that business. They'll start slow and then hope to grow that business to capture more California airports and operate out of Ventura County as a home base. With that, I would like to introduce Matt Gilbreth and Travis Villain from Javiation to come online and just open it up to see if any authority members have any questions for them. And maybe Travis, you might say something, you might introduce yourself if you don't mind. And...
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Again, my name is Travis Villain. I'm a partner at Javiation, and I will be the project director. And joining me tonight is Matt Gilbreth, who will be the project manager for the Ventura County Airports, and JD Ingram, another partner in Javiation, who runs our Colorado practice. We are excited in the partnerships that we will be forming with the community. Just so you know, our soon-to-be home will be located at 56th East Main Street in Ventura. So as you start to see vehicles with signage of Javiation along the side, I do have one favor. If you do see them lingering a little too long at the beach, please let us know. But we are excited to be part of the community and a set of very diverse and dynamic airports that serve your community.
Aaron, Bill Thomas, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
So you guys are taking, getting involved right in the end product of the planning for the Oxnard Airport redo. How do you work with the outgoing engineering firm as far as making sure that that's smooth and as pain-free as possible?
Yeah, great question. I think I'll have JD Ingram, one of my partners. JD, you want to take that one?
Yeah, Bill, that's a great question. One we get often. One, I guess, to give you some background, Javiation being a firm that's solely focused in the aviation practice, we understand the federal government grant process, the FAA. We work in that day in and day out. We understand best practices. We know how to design and operate on airports. We do it all day long. We have 105 people across 9 different offices. So for us, diving into the details and working side by side with the current consultant to make sure that our questions are addressed is a good first step. Also, there are airports that you have one consultant do the design and another consultant do the construction, administration, and oversight. And that is common practice, like at Denver International where we work. So it's not uncommon to do that. We do know Mead and Hunt, and we know those people, and we're happy to step in and become fully vested in your success and ensuring that you get the quality that you want, the quality of materials, the quality of design and construction, so that you get a lifelong 20-year pavement out of that runway. So it's something we're used to doing. We have no issues doing it. And we take all the professional courtesies along the way.
Mr. Thomas, I would like to add, if you don't mind, Javiation and Mead and Hunt actually have already begun working in partnership. Javiation is already attending bi-weekly phone calls related to the project with the FAA. They've participated in providing review and feedback on the job specifications. They're fully integrating and working. Both firms are doing an excellent job to make sure that we end up with the product, both in design and when we get to construction, that we would expect. So I do appreciate everyone's efforts, both Mead and Hunt and Javiation, and that partnership, even as it transitions, will likely continue in some capacity as we go through construction.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Mike Hodson with a question.
Yes, Mike. Thank you.
Yes. Well, we have been using Mead and Hunt for many years as a consultant, and the question begs to be answered. What is the motivation for the change at this point to Javiation? And my follow-up question is, do we have any Ventura County Airport employees that have ever had any dealings with Javiation or personal relationships, employment, et cetera, with Javiation? Do we know their history? What are the answers to these questions?
So Aaron, if you'll talk about the process as to why Javiation was chosen, I'll take the second part of that question.
Sure, Mr. Hodson, as I was demonstrating in the first set of slides, we actually do a 5-year selection with the eye towards freshly selecting a consultant every 5 years. You're right that Mead and Hunt has been the successful consultant during those selections multiple times. And so every time the airport endeavors to look at it with a fresh set of eyes. And we did previously, and we did during this process, have an even playing field. We had the three firms that we interviewed were all highly qualified, and it was a very competitive field. Though we ended up unanimously deciding to select Javiation, it was really for the reasons that we felt that they best represented the type of services that we would be needing as we promote the projects that we have in the next 5 years on our CIP.
Has Javiation been considered in any of the previous selection processes for the Ventura County Department of Airports?
So I have been involved in, I think, almost two selections. They have not submitted previously. Although I have to tell you, I was quite pleased with the response we received for submittals this time around. We actually received 6, as I said, firms responding to our request for interest and qualifications. I think the last selection process, I think that we received 2 or 3. So I do feel like this was a robust process with firms, even including partnerships that we have not seen before. So Javiation not specifically before, but we also had other firms that we had never had interest from as well.
Okay, so the issue is that, not an issue, but the point is Mead and Hunt has not done anything particularly that we don't like. It's just this process has been open to other companies and Javiation was selected.
That's correct. Mead and Hunt is a highly qualified firm, just like the other 2 that we interviewed for the final selection.
Okay, so if Kip could answer the second part of my question, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, and it's a good question. And to simply put it, yes, your director has had dealings with all 3 of the companies that we interviewed with. I've been in this industry for over 30 years. I've employed all 3 of those companies at one time or another on multiple occasions. I've hired Mead and Hunt to do projects as large as $130 million. I've hired Javiation to do projects that probably accumulate to that or more. I've hired the third company that we interviewed to do similar type projects, and I've had good dealings with all 3. As Aaron pointed out, the work that we have in front of us for the next 5 years, the committee felt that Javiation would be able to better accommodate our needs for the work that we have facing us for the next 5 years on these particular projects. And when we do this again in 5 years, it'll be a whole new look as it was when we did this look.
Okay, so have any of the employees of the Department of Airports worked for Javiation in the past?
There has been. Our deputy director, who is the other person that's had affiliation with all 3 companies, worked for 2 of the companies that interviewed for us, and one of those was Javiation.
Okay.
In another span of work that he did before he became a deputy director for the airport.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Kip, could you let us know who was on the commission to select this? Just, it sounds like there's some questions on that, so just for clarification.
Absolutely. It was a committee of 3, myself as the director, the deputy director, and the projects administrator, Aaron Powers.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Supervisor Ramirez.
Thank you. I basically just would like to get a little more detail. This is this particular kind of, well, airport activities new to me. And I'd just like to know a little bit more detail about what makes this particular organization more appropriate for what is in store for the Oxnard Airport. If you could give a little more detail, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Aaron, I don't know if you want to talk about the scoring matrix that we had, or if you want me to try to take that, or either way.
So I don't have the scoring matrix in front of
Sure,
me. I
yeah.
apologize.
No, no,
Um,
that's
and
fine. Go ahead.
but I would say that, you know, one of the outstanding factors for the for the decision making from my perspective that I think was shared, and Kip can maybe expand on this after, is that the projects that we have for Oxnard Airport, since that's what you were specifically referencing, but really for both airports, really we have several challenges in some of the future FAA design standards, and where the airport is, where we're going to need advocacy. And one of the things that the panel felt very strongly about was that JViation has some of the relationships and the experience to do a great job advocating for us, with us, as we may have to take some of these items to advocate for these big projects that we have, both to our local ADO, to the state, and maybe Washington, D.C. And Kip, I hope I captured that correctly.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of many factors, but yes, there was a scoring matrix that we used in assessing all three firms that we interviewed. It was quite a process. We spent a lot of time interviewing the three firms. Quite frankly, all three of the firms, as Aaron has pointed out, are very qualified firms and could have done a job that we would have been proud of, I'm sure. So there was a lot that went into the effort. It was not a very quick effort. It was a very extensive effort, and one that is, Erin pointed out when she went over the process slides earlier, is a very involving effort that includes the FAA and guidance and steps that the FAA recommends throughout. So we feel like we've done that to a T and done it really well, and we're really excited to have JViation joining us.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please go ahead.
I just have a quick question. Kip, is the rate for all of these individuals involved in the overseeing of this project a consideration, or is it a set fee that you stipulate prior to the bid process?
No, it is not. The FAA does not allow us to include an examination of rates, if you will, in the qualification process. So it's truly a qualifications process. And then if we engage the selected company and we don't for some reason agree with the rate structure, then obviously we don't have to choose that company. That's not been the case with JViation. They have competitive rates that are very competitive to anything else we've been doing. So but no, we're not allowed to look or even explore the rates in the qualification process as outlined by the FAA.
Okay, I was just, with the change being made, I just wondered if that could be an issue, but it sounds like you've got it under control. With respect to the project itself at Oxnard Runway 25 replacement, a question comes to mind. We've got the design portion of it, let's say, for lack of better terms, done by one consultant. And now, frankly, out of the blue comes another consultant, equally adverse, just as good. If there was a problem when the project was all completed, would there be any issues in terms of responsibility towards the project? In other words, if we were to be, who knows, if we wanted to sue somebody, is there a gray area presented by the two terms, these two agencies taking over, or is that pretty clear?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question if you're not doing this stuff every day, and that's a good question. But no, simply put, no. One company is responsible for the design, and the other company is responsible, in this case, for this particular project that you're referring to, for the construction management. So two totally different beasts. One's got an engineering component for the design, and then the other is making sure that it's being built right. But no, two totally different things. And I've personally been involved in a number of projects over the last 30 years where, and we talked to this earlier, Aaron and Javiation representatives did, JD, I think it was, where they have done this, but I've personally been involved with a number of projects over the years, high magnitude projects, where one company would do a design and another company would come in and do a construction management oversight or whatever whatever may be left on that. That's not an abnormal thing. It happens frequently. And in our world, it happens pretty well with a good handoff at the right points. And for this, it's definitely the right point for us. So
I'm assuming that from this point on, our new representative who has the ability to control the project and assure us that there will not be problems later on. Is that correct?
absolutely, absolutely. If anything, the positive thing is you get a new set of eyes making sure that the previous part lines up with what you wanted to begin with. So if anything, it's an added plus, if you will.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have a hand up for Director Perillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Perillo, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. First off, I apologize for getting here a little late, but I want to thank Mr. Hodgson for the questions that he asked. And I'd like a little bit of clarification on the question you asked, Madam Chair, for the identity of the 3 individuals on the committee. Don't those individuals have to go through a Form 700 filing? And if there were any questions about questionable associations, that is cleared up before individuals are allowed to be on a selection committee? Is there someone that can answer that?
I think I'll take a stab at it. I know I go through a 700 filing. I know the deputy director does, and Aaron, I don't want to speak for you, but I got a feeling you do too as a county employee.
Okay, I think the public needed to hear that. I would just like to ask, with Mr. Calhoun's questions also, good questions, with respect to, and I think his words were guarantee. Is there a value engineering firm that looks at this so that we have the management firm that would be looking at something and it's like, we're going to do exactly what had been called in the planning, even though the management firm would know that there is better, cheaper, easier ways to do it? And I will use as an example, at the Oxnard Airport, right across the street, the Juan Soria School, there was a value engineering that was able to save a tremendous amount of money. And we use that in this project at all?
That's sort of a different beast, if you will. This is a selection of qualification of services. So and I'm familiar with what you're talking about, and those are definitely something. If we start getting bids, for example, or we get into the project and it seems like the cost is excessively growing or something like that, where you might want to have a separate set of eyes come in a value engineering standpoint. I've done that before on at least one other project, but that's not where we are at this point in time, and that's not what this selection is about. So it's two sort of separate different things that you've got going there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I do not see anyone else's hand up. Are there any public comments on this item?
We received no written public comment.
Thank you very much. Important for us to all know. Are there any further questions before I ask for a motion for the recommendations from staff? Okay, so for Camarillo, can I get a motion to move as recommended?
Bill Thomas, move as recommended.
Thank you. And a second?
John Mulchay, second.
Okay, so it's first by Director Thomas, second by Director Mulchay, and a roll call, please.
Supervisor Long.
Yes.
Supervisor Ramirez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mulchay.
Yes.
Councilmember Santangelo.
Yes.
Bill Thomas.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, and I'll pass it on to Chair Calhoun.
Thank you very much. Let's have a motion, please.
I'll motion approve for the Oxnard as recommended.
Second.
Okay, it's been first and second. Could we have a roll call, please?
Supervisor Long,
Yes.
Supervisor Ramirez,
Yes.
Councilmember Perallo,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez,
Yes.
Walter Calhoun.
Here.
That
Aye.
motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Powers and Mr. Turner, for all the assistance in moving this forward, and appreciate Jviation for coming to be a part of the team. I hope we have very good conversations and good communication so that we're on time and under budget.
Yes, thank you. We're excited to be part of the community and looking forward to finding success with all of you.
Thank you very much. And I think once you move to Ventura's location, you'll never want to move. Ventura County is just a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, thank you.
So, thank you very much and welcome. So with that, we have our director's report. I'll turn that over to Kip.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to update the authorities on a few items that we've been keeping you involved and updated on over the last few months. They're continuing to evolve. The number one item that I'd like to update you on tonight is the hangar lease, the private hangar lease. Let me be clear on that. And then the latest draft went out to the private hangar owners on February the 1st. And then we also invited all of the private hangar owners to a virtual meeting where they could meet directly with staff, me particularly on this item. We had about a 2-hour meeting today. It was a very good meeting. We had 46 that registered for the meeting, and then we had, I think, out of the 46, either 32 or 34 that actually participated and attended. Out of those, 3 or 4 of them were county affiliated. So we had probably about 28, 29 private hangar owners that joined in and had good questions and good comments and good feedback for us. The exciting news is, I think that this latest draft is, quite frankly, the most generous hangar lease I've ever in my life been associated with, and I've been doing this for over 30 years, so that talks about a lot of leases. But we've really got a lease here that's exciting. It's exciting from a pilot's perspective. I can say that because I'm a pilot as well, and I look forward to maybe using this lease myself on a personal deal one day. But long story short, I think all of the issues pretty much that we had concerns with or questions on since this last draft went out on the 1st have been sort of answered or resolved, if you will, except for maybe 2. Those 2 issues relate to matters that the county's legal team they were items that we addressed and talked about over a year ago, or actually a year ago when we were last in front of you. When we left that body, they were not 2 of the items we were asked to look further at. Although with that being said, after hearing comments today, we are still yet taking another look to see if there's anything else that can be done on those 2 matters. And if there is any further discussion on those 2, it'll be in the March meetings. But bottom line is we're bringing the lease back to your body. It comes to the commission on March 1st, and it comes to your authorities on March the 11th. And then we have it scheduled to go in front of the Board of Supervisors on March the 23rd. So we're excited to be making progress with that. This is about a 7-year product. I've been here right at 2 years now, and I believe it had been on the docket for almost 5 years prior to my getting here. So I can tell you that I've received a lot of feedback from individual hangar owners that are thankful that we've provided a lease that is resembling what this lease looks like. And we've also received, quite frankly, a lot of people that are glad to hear that they think we're about to have a final lease. There's been a lot of folks, as I understand it, that have held up business transactions over the last few years that have not had a surety of how to handle their business at our airports because of our insecurity of not having a stable lease. So there's a lot of excitement, I think, that this thing's moving forward, and we're excited to be bringing that to you in March. The next update I've got for you is on our Northeast Hangar development, which is the phase one of the county-owned hangars that we're building in the northeast
Sorry.
quadrant.
Chair, I'm sorry. Can I ask a question about the lease?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Would that be okay? I'm sorry for interrupting you there.
No, no worries.
I did receive a question about the proposed lease, and it had to do, you may have heard this in your meeting today, about what I understand to be, was told that was a very large increase in automobile liability for vehicles on site. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you heard that?
Yeah, no, I do. We talked about it extensively today, and actually, I think that question's been sort of resolved. I don't want to get too much in breaking Robert's rules of order here, not being an agenda item, but I think I can skirt around this and still be legally acceptable here in the fact, and when I tell you that that's been resolved.
Well, I'll look forward to talking to you offline about that. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, and you'll get a grave amount of detail in March, so get ready because we're going to give you an update on every single item.
Thank you.
But yeah, I can assure you that that item has been resolved. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Perillo, did you have a question on that one item?
No, I just put my hand up to speak after the manager's done. I will wait my turn.
Perfect. No, you're good. Thank you. I just wanted to check. Go ahead, Kip.
All right, thank you. The second item of update is the northeast hangar development. I've said that. I'm sorry. I'm sort of looking at my notes, so I got to start over here. But long story short, those 41 hangars are nearing completion. So yay, we've got another item that's been on the docket, if you will, for over 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years, and Aaron could better talk to that. But it's actually coming to a completion point now. So we're excited about that. When we last spoke, actually, when you last met, I had to do some emergency travel. So I haven't yet apologized to you all for that. And I'm sorry that I had to, particularly for the new supervisors, I had to miss your first meeting with our authority. But I promise you, had it not been for parents' illnesses, that I would have been there. But thank you for understanding that. But anyway, when you last met, you were updated that we had a slight delay at that time because we were waiting on some materials to come in for the floor sealants. We didn't know what the timeline was going to be because they were having to manufacture new stuff for us. Long story short, we got them to accelerate that and got that done. And they are actually completing the work, and we're doing actually tomorrow, Aaron and I are doing our final walkthrough with the company on that. So we're excited about having that project coming to completion. Simultaneously, while the hangars have been being built, particularly over this past year, staff has been working on the wait list protocols and the updated county-owned hangar lease and policy that's being finalized simultaneous with the hangar construction. And we're expecting to be able to start inviting people to start occupying those hangars hopefully sometime in the early to mid-March timeframe. So that's an exciting thing for us. The next update that I've got is on the master plan study. As you have been updated the last couple of months, we kicked that study off in November. That's about a 12 to 18 month study that really defines the future of our two airports, a critical study that we sought and received a $750,000 grant for. And so it's being fully funded. And we have now, the last time you met and got your update, we were working on trying to put a date to the first public workshop of 4 that will be on this over the 12 months. And we have the first one scheduled for May the 13th. So we're looking forward to that and getting the messaging and everything prepared and out for that so that we can start getting the public feedback and participation that we want to receive, and the leadership feedback from the community and the leaders and everything on that, so we can make that a fruitful study. And then the final update that I've got is on the Oxnard runway and taxiway reconstruction project. I'm happy to say that we are nearing 100% design now. So we anticipate that design being complete sometime this month and going out for bids in March. We still have one remaining public workshop that we're planning to hold when we receive the federal grant for that project. And that'll be the last box we check after bids are received, the grant for actually triggering the construction, which right now It's our understanding that we could see the grant as early as sometime in May and trigger the construction in sometime in June, as we've been talking about for the last several months. I do want to point out again, as I've pointed out on numerous occasions, and I want to keep reminding your boards and the tenants and the public that weighs into these conversations. We are dependent on timing of kicking the actual construction off on when we get the grant. So if the FAA were to, for any reason, not meet the timelines we're expecting on the date of delivery for the grant, then that does push the date of construction. So I just want to keep reminding our audience of that. But right now, we understand and feel like that everything's lining up to still be grant received in May, construction starting sometime in June. And that's really the only updates I had on that, other than actually one more minor update. You were informed last month in my absence that we're also excited about the fact that we're getting airport meetings back to airports. From an airport guide that going back to 1985, that's always been a big thing that I've always thought was important, to have airport meetings at airports. So while COVID is still not allowing in-person meetings, when they do, those in-person meetings will be at the Oxnard terminal. We've spent a lot of money and a lot of work putting a facelift on that place, and we're really excited about showing it off a little bit and having our meetings over there. And we've also invested pretty heavily in technology, and our staff, I want to thank John and Anna. They have done an outstanding job on getting us race ready, if you will, to be performing with technology that allows us to have our own virtual platform. So even though we won't be probably still having people in person yet in April, we are switching to our own live format, if you will. You're actually on it tonight, but we're totally going to it in April. So the only thing that would be different, we've got, I think, 2 primary mediums that we get out all over the nation or all over the county, which I think could be the nation or wherever. But the only thing we wouldn't have at that point would be the Camarillo City TV, which is a limited, obviously, audience anyway, just for the city of Camarillo. So, but the 2 mediums we have definitely cover that audience and cover it well. So we're excited about that and looking forward to hopefully one of these days with COVID loosening up a little bit, getting you back in person. And then when we do, that'll be in the terminal. So, Madam Chair and Chair, that is the director's report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Madam Chair, Bill.
First of all, we had Councilmember Perillo who had asked his hand first. So go ahead, Bert.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a comment for the 2 new members on the Oxnard Airport Authority. This issue about the leases with the pilots has been a big deal, and it's a tremendous compliment to the staff that they've been able to address it, because there have been some tremendously near volatile meetings over this matter, and it's a tremendous big kudos for our organization and the management that they've gotten this far. With respect to the question that was brought up, the point that was brought up by the manager with respect to sealant, I don't know if this is the appropriate time or is it when we get to item 8, because there is an item 8, number 3, and it's talking about construction completion delayed, hangar floor coating complications. Is that what the complications were? They just couldn't get the sealant. Those are my question and concern.
Let's address that when we get to number 8.
Okay,
but first, let's just focus on the director's report. Any other comments?
Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
Kip, you mentioned the 13 May public workshop on the new 5-year plan. Are you going to want any of the authority or the commission members involved with you on that? Is that something we should be planning on working with you guys on, or standoff? What kind of participation you want from us?
No, that's a great question. It could be done a number of ways. First of all, simply yes, we want all of your input, not just part of you, but all of you. So we'll be talking to your boards about everything we're doing throughout the course of this study and getting your input on that. There's added ways you can do that if you want to. I mean, there's committees that can weigh in with staff on the course of this study if you want to put something like that together. We are going to have a planning advisory committee that's comprised of 20 members, and it's being primarily a member from each of the 10 cities, and then various leaders that are chosen for the other 10 representing the entire parameters of the county. That list is still being put together, so I don't want to speak ahead of that, but I can tell you that definitely your authority is going to be weighing in, hearing the updates and reports of the feedback that we're getting. We're hoping you're going to participate in the workshops, whether it be individually or if you decide to choose speakers for your group representing all of your interests. Those are decisions obviously you can make. We welcome each and every one of you and prefer each and every one of you, but we would also obviously respect your choices if you wanted to have a speaker for the group or whatever that may be. So, but absolutely yes is the simple answer. We want you to be involved, and you will be.
Thank you very much on that. Are there any public comments in regards to the director's report? Any other comments, questions? Okay, if not, moving to item number 8, reports.
The staff does not have anything to add other than the reports in the binder, but I'm happy to field questions if there is any. Sounded like there might have been one.
Yes, so Councilmember Perillo had a question in regards to one of the items, so if you could address that.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. On page 8E3, number 5, it is the Northeast Hangar development, and I'm wondering if this was covered in the manager's report, because the remark is construction completion delayed, hangar floor coating complications have extended the completion date, update scheduled pending. Was it simply a matter of not being able to get the material, or is there something else involved in that matter?
No, sir, that was the matter of the material. The material that they originally were trying to put down was not adhering correctly. And so we had the project stop and had them go make a new batch of material is the short version of it. But that had to be manufactured and we had to wait on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Chair, I have one more question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, on page 8B2, the noise complaints. There is the second noise complaint from the 1400 block of Twin Tides addresses it. Now, I do not know the individual that this is, but I do have a suspicion that there may be some connection with a letter that was sent directly to me from a Mr. Tannehill, who lives on 1404 Twin Tides Place. I would like to forward this to the general manager and have him give it to every member of the Oxnard Airport Authority. I don't want to get in hot water with, somebody saying I'm steering this organization. The gentleman asked specific questions about airplanes and he wants answers. And as I've said before at this public meeting, there are times when people think a city councilman can snap their finger and make things happen. I think we need to get the entire airport authority aware and the general manager, and possibly then have a response for the gentleman or take his concerns to the body.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Kip, can you remind all board members if we receive any correspondence from someone in regards to the airport, what is the procedure that as a member, a director here, we would email it to you and it becomes public? Can you review that, please?
Absolutely, yeah. No,
Thank you.
our ops team focuses, they focus on a lot of things, but one of the things they also handle are these noise complaints. They do a really good job. They receive the noise complaints. They look into the noise complaints. Oftentimes they'll take time then and go work with the tower. If they can do anything to try to narrow down how the complaint was generated, what made it come about. To see if it was something that's a normal issue in a pattern or whatever it might have been. And then they log these complaints and the results of that effort. But absolutely, the process would definitely be to email us or call us and let us know, and feel free to do it at any level. You send it to me or our deputy director, Dave, and or our ops supervisors directly, and John's one of those, and they do a really good job of quickly following up on that and getting to the end of it. A lot of times we don't have a magical answer that makes everybody happy because everything was proper and there was nothing wrong. It's just somebody didn't like the fact they heard an airplane, but and we have to record that. But we do the diligence to find out if it's legit or not, or if there's something that like not too long ago, several months ago, we had a couple of different complaints about traffic patterns, and we talked with the tower to see if they could ramp up their messaging to pilots to recommend you know, a more stringent traffic pattern, and the complaints sort of slowed down for a little while. So those kind of things happen, and every time that we get notice of them, we continue to work them the best we can.
Thank you. Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Perlow, another question?
Yes. Along with that, when I forward this, can I request that it be sent to every, I understand your point about becomes part of the public record. Will it be sent to every member of the Oxnard Airport Authority? Because I've gotten a few of these, and I appreciate the answers that I got, but it wasn't clear on that specific point. Will it be given to every Oxnard Airport Authority member?
We can definitely, if that's a request, send anything you want to all the authority members.
Make that request. I would make that request, Mr. Turner, and I appreciate your response. Thank you very much. That's the end of my comment.
Just, if you will, just remind when you send it, remind it that's your request, that you want it sent out to the authority.
Will do. Thank you.
Just make sure I don't overlook whichever one it is you want sent out.
You got it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And then also just a confirmation that it would be a part of the correspondence to the next board meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that everyone knows the process.
Yes, and Anna does a good job of taking the minutes of these meetings, so I can tell you that she's listening, and it'll be in the correspondence.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, do you have a question?
Right, I do on page 8, Echo 3, which was the same one that Mr. Corolla talked about, but I noticed that on item, there's two bids that estimate and low bid were sort of out of bid for over $100,000 plus, and I just wondered if you could make some comments on how that occurs, because I don't remember seeing those big discrepancies before.
Can you be more specific about which?
The estimate for the hangar development phase 1 was $7,126,000, and the low bid was $7,950,000. And then the low bid for the taxiway H pavement, or the estimate, was $46,600, and the bid came in at $213,000. Those are fairly large discrepancy between a estimate and the low bid. I was just curious what might be happening.
Aaron, if hopefully you're still maybe with us, I'm going to get her to speak to that. If she's got probably a little more intel on that than I might have right offhand.
Hi, I apologize. My agenda disappeared from my screen. So, and you're talking about projects that, the Northeast Hangar development, that bid we did bring before your authority with the amounts, including the engineer's estimate, would have been in the letters at the time.
Right. No, they're both there. It's just the estimate came in at $7,126,000, and the low bid was $1,950,000. So that's quite a bit of difference between what the engineering estimate was in the bid, and I was just a little curious on how it gets that big a spread.
Well, normally, your goal is that your engineer's estimate is within 10% of the, your bid is within 10%, hopefully minus, but plus or minus. And sometimes you do get discrepancies with that. In this case, for the Northeast Hangar development, We did find that the electrical costs that in the bid were definitely higher than anticipated. And we awarded that, and we did actually, as Kip and Bert Perello, Councilman Perello, had indicated, we did try to do some value engineering, but were unsuccessful in finding savings. So the project moved forward, with that increased cost.
And I think the second one he had a question on was the TWYH pavement rehabilitation. The estimate came at $47,640, and the low bid was $213,351.
So I apologize. As I said, I don't have the paper open. When you say that, that actually isn't the engineer's estimate. That would have been the design cost. So I think sometimes the
It was the top number was the 47.
Was the design.
Okay, and then the
estimate
coming in for the bid was 213.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or actually, the bid was 213.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. It just says estimate and low bid. So.
Right. Okay. Any other questions from directors?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Sean.
if I can direct a
Councilmember Mache.
direct a question of Kip. Kip, referring to page 8A in the reports, for the year to date ending in December 2020, the total aircraft accidents year to date for Camarillo is 22. I don't have 2019s or any previous years, but would that mark a significant uptick, or does that really deviate from prior years' number of accidents?
I believe those are not accidents. Those are, let's see, I'm sorry.
Incidents. It says aircraft incidents, 22.
John, are you able to weigh in?
There are incidents.
Yeah, I can. So those are the aircraft incidents, not necessarily accidents. So those involve flat tires, anything that has to do with any type of aircraft. And from what I can remember, it's not an uptake, but it's not a decrease either. So it's about normal, what normal can be, I guess, for aircraft incidents. So I don't foresee it being a increase, but I can definitely look into it for sure.
Okay, and then the second question I had also loosely kind of relates to this. I guess it's kind of a two-parter. I noticed that under occupied hangars, we had 21 hangars available as of the end of December at Camarillo. I recall that number being significantly lower. Is there still a wait list for Camarillo?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We sort of touched on it a little bit before, but it doesn't hurt to touch on it repetitively. The reason you're seeing that number now, yes, first of all, there is a wait list. The reason you see that number now is the county-owned hangars. Those are county-owned hangars, and the county-owned hangars, we're trying to make sure that we carve out the ones that just no longer need to be rented, quite frankly. We've got some that are in really bad shape. So I'm really excited that we've got the 41 coming open. And really what's going to happen is we're going to be moving some of the priority for people to fill those hangars are going to be coming out of county-owned hangars that are no longer engineeringly sound. So we're in the process now of trying to clean up the county hangar situation, if you will, and get rid of the ones that are at risk of not being a sound hangar. And so that number reflects that, because what we need to do is go ahead and take that number offline, and that'll balance that number up. But that's just not happened on our paperwork yet, is what's happened there.
And the second part of that question loosely relates to aircraft at Camarillo Airport. I was recently notified that there were what I was told to be a significant number of rather large aircraft that were registered in Ventura County, and specifically at Camarillo Airport, that are no longer registered there as unsecured property tax. I guess they pay unsecured property tax and they have now since registered outside, at least Camarillo, if not the county. I was wondering if you knew anything about that, or if you could shed light on anything about that.
No, I'm not aware of that issue. It's the first time I've heard anything about it. I can tell you that both aircraft owners and boat owners, large boat owners, sometimes get creative about where they register aircrafts and boats, but I'm not aware of the specific incidents you're talking about. But as long as they're operating legally, and as far as we know, all of the operators that we're accommodating are, we don't have a lot of that's more of an FAA or maybe a county taxation issue than it would be an airport issue.
Is it, in your 30 years experience, is it common for large aircraft operators, say like business jets or whatnot, to jump around the registration of their aircraft to different jurisdictions for whatever reason?
I've seen that on a number of occasions, particularly for large business aircraft. They'll incorporate whatever state they think is best to have their incorporation in, and then they operate. I've seen it. Yeah, I have seen that. I've seen it in other states too. I'm not just here. I think it's just however the business or the individual, whatever creative accountants they have, I guess. I'm not sure. I've never been fortunate enough to be in that boat, but but I have heard those stories before. Yes.
I guess it's unsecured property, so by very virtue, I guess you can move it around and put it where you want, and thus register it where you want. But,
yeah.
Okay. You're not aware of any large exodus, or I shouldn't say exodus, but a large non-registration of aircraft at Camarillo or in.
No, this is the first I've heard of anything like that. You mentioned it tonight.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I do have one. I want to raise up a concern that I've heard from other directors as well on 8F. It states on the calendar that we are at the City Council chambers as things are moving to the airport, and the restriction of time is different. I would like for us to poll both the Aviation Advisory Commission and the Camarillo and Oxnard authorities to see if we want to change the time of the meeting. I appreciate staff and understand they get paid for time and a half, but I'm sensitive to that as well, as we're trying to rub sticks together and make sure we are profitable. So with all the concerns that I've heard, I would like to ask that get looked at if possible. Okay, good. There's no. Kelly, you're wrong. So
Madam Chair, would you like us to put that on the agenda for next month's meeting?
yes, please. And if you could poll before that, so we have some information to talk about, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any public comments on the reports? I have another question for Councilmember Perillo.
Well, I was just curious, Supervisor Long, you wanted to move the time up. How much up?
That's what I would like to get, have.
Agendized? Okay.
Polled, yes. I'm
Thank
not
you.
making a decision. I'm just asking for us to research that and make sure that it's good for all.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. If there are no public comments, this is just receive and file. So next are the correspondence. Is there any questions or concerns on the correspondence? And hearing none, there's no public comments on that. I will move to authority comments. Anyone of the authority have any comments they'd like to say?
Yeah, Mike Hodson.
Yes. Please go ahead, Mike.
Yes. My concern is the lease process as it goes forward. I understand that the meeting this morning with the private hangar owners was okay based on the virtual meeting, and those are the requirements that we live under these days in the current COVID situation. However, I think that my opinion is that a true meeting with live participation is much more effective and much more informative and suitable for many of our tenants, private hangar owners. I don't know what the urgency is to get this hangar lease process completed. I realize we've been going through it for way too many years, and I'm anxious to get it done as much as anybody as a hangar owner. But I think that live participation, I think that a real meeting is much better. People are able to express their opinions much better in a live meeting, and I would encourage the Department of Airports to consider that as they move forward with the lease process.
Thank you. Councilmember Perillo.
Yes, just to follow up on the minutes from the December 10th meeting when we had our election, and there was a question about member of the public serving on the airport. And then the question came up, well, member of the public, did they have to live in Oxnard? And I believe there was going to be some sort of report back or something. And I'm wondering how that's progressed and when can we expect that? Is there a requirement for members of the public that serve on the Cambria or the Oxnard Airport Authority to live in the communities that they represent?
I believe that might have happened when I was out.
I believe there was buy-in from the supervisor, Ramirez, also on that.
I believe that happened last month when I was out. I know, and I know Anna gave me an update on that yesterday, I think, and I'm drawing a total brain emptiness here. Anna, if you don't mind, if there is an update to give, please help. If there's not, we can bring that back.
Councilmember Perillo, you previously inquired about whether the public member of the Oxnard Airport Authority had to reside in the city of Oxnard. So at your request, I looked into that, and after consulting with county council, per the bylaws, the public member does not have to reside in the city of Oxnard.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, I just wanted to remind or inform everybody that whether we have an air show in August is still beyond the scope of my imagination. So we're planning full speed ahead on having it, hoping that August, July is when things happen and we can move forward, but we probably will not make a firm decision until the first part of May. And so if anybody hears anything, sort of the canary in the mine is the Ventura County Fair. So if anybody hears anything about the county fair, I'd appreciate a heads up. Thanks.
And Mr. Thomas, I would be more than happy to give you the heads up when the state gives us a heads up. Be great. Thank you. Any other directors have any other comments? I would like to say thank you to Kip and other staff. We had our update on the hangar lease this morning at 9:30, which I participated in. I have been a part of this hangar lease conversation since 2017 when I got on this board the first time. And really appreciate the work that Todd McNamee and now Kip Turner have done. It has been an evolution of multiple in-person meetings and just emails. We've seen it at the board come back and forth. There has been multiple changes. So if you are on the board and you would like to get an update and some more information on the hangar lease, I would ask that you connect with our director, Kip, to really get up to speed with it. There has been multiple different changes. There's been tons of effort, and really appreciate the back and forth that we have had with our public. So I just want to urge everyone to do that. And if you have questions, I had questions from the meeting today at 9:30, and I gave Kip a call directly after and said, hey, this is what stuck in my mind. I want to make sure I know this information. So I would like to make sure everyone else does that too, because I think this is a very important matter for all of us and our constituents and those that are at the hangar, have hangars with us. And so we don't take this lightly. And I wanted to make sure we stress that, because Yeah, we've been working on this for even before 2017, I believe. They've been kicking down this can for since the 80s. I believe, I mean, history, I don't want to repeat itself, but I think we're in a good place. And so I just would urge you, if you have any questions or concerns, to do that with Kip now, because I do know this will be coming back to the Board of Supervisors, and Supervisor Ramirez and I will have to decide on these things. And I want to make sure that we have as much public comments and cooperation and inclusion as possible. So that's my comments. Thank you. Any others? Councilmember Perillo, you still have your hand up. Do you have another question?
Yeah, no question, but just authority comments. I would like to express publicly my condolences to Supervisor Carmen Ramirez on the loss of her brother to COVID within the last week. I'm very sorry, Carmen. That's all. Thank you.
That is so appropriate. We share the condolences for Supervisor Ramirez. It's been a tough week for her. Anything else? If not, we are going to adjourn our meeting at 8:16. Appreciate everyone's time and efforts and the success of our airports. So thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.